I turned 62 last year. It wasn't a milestone anyone cared about. No balloons, no calls, no text that said thinking of you. I waited all morning, made coffee twice, checked my phone every hour. Silence. I thought maybe they were planning a surprise, a dinner, a cake, something. By evening, I realized they weren't. At 7:03 p.m., my son posted a photo, not of me, but of his new grill. Captioned, "Finally upgraded. Family barbecue soon." My daughter-in-law liked the post. So did my daughter. No mention of me, not even a lazy happy birthday under the photo. I sat on the porch with a blanket around my shoulders, listening to the neighbors' kids shrieking with laughter next door. Someone lit sparklers. For a second, I pretended they were celebrating me. Sad, isn't it? Pretending strangers care when your own blood forgets you exist. I thought about texting them. Hey, don't forget about the old man. But I didn't, because if love. The next morning, I woke up early, poured my coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and wrote 3 letters. One to my son, one to my daughter, one to my sister. Simple. No anger, no begging. Just the truth. I spent my life showing up for you. Birthdays, graduations, heartbreaks. I never needed a parade. Just a little space in your heart. Yesterday, you showed me how small that space really is. I won't beg to be remembered. I'll simply remember myself. I signed each with my name. Not Dad, not Brother, just Walter, because that's who they forgot. I didn't mail the letters. I didn't need to. Writing them was enough. It was a contract with myself, a promise. No more chasing people who only turn around when they need something. That was the day I started living for me, and the day I stopped grieving people still alive. I thought cutting them out would feel angry, like slamming a door, like shouting. But it didn't. It felt quiet, like closing a book I realized I wasn't in anymore. The first few days, I half expected someone to notice. A call, a text, an apology wrapped in clumsy jokes. It never came. And that silence, it wasn't cruel. It was clarifying. I started small, deleted birthdays from my calendar, cleared old voicemails, removed emergency contacts. If they didn't remember me when I was breathing, they didn't get to be listed if I wasn't. Neighbors noticed. Mrs. Campbell asked if I was okay, said she missed seeing my grandkids around. I smiled. They're busy growing up. She nodded, didn't press. Sometimes strangers are kinder than family. I took the energy I used to spend waiting and started planting. Bought a few pots, some seeds, tomatoes, lavender, basil. Every morning I watered them like prayers, and they grew, slowly, steadily, without needing to be begged, without forgetting who tended them. Funny thing about plants, they don't care if you're perfect. They just need you to show up. I thought about the birthdays I spent bending over backwards, rushing from store to store, finding the perfect gift, writing long cards full of memories. All those candles lit for others, none lit for me. I wasn't bitter. I was awake. One evening, sitting under the porch light, I realized I didn't feel lonely. I felt light, as if cutting people out didn't shrink my world. It made room for better things to grow. Summer rolled in heavy and sweet. The tomatoes ripened faster than I could pick them. I started leaving baskets by the mailbox, free for anyone to take. No signs, no expectations, just quiet offerings to a world that still showed up for me, even if some people didn't. One afternoon, a little boy from down the street knocked on my door. Grubby hands, missing front tooth, holding a bent tomato stem. "Mr. Walt, you're magic! Mom said these are the best she ever had." I laughed, ruffled his hair. "No magic, son, just patience." Patience, the thing I gave my family for years, the thing they mistook for permanence. They thought I'd always be there, always forgiving, always waiting. Until I wasn't. I went through old boxes in the attic, found photos, birthdays I threw, vacations I paid for, graduations where I clapped the loudest. I sorted them into two piles. One marked, "Keep real smiles." The other, "Let go, obligations." I burned the second pile in the fire pit out back, watched the smoke twist into the sunset. Didn't feel sad, didn't feel cruel. Felt clean. I made new rules for my life, simple ones. Only answer calls that feel like sunlight. Only go to places that make me laugh out loud. Only keep memories that water me, not drain me. It wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. At the farmer's market, I met a woman named Carol. Widow, 3 grandkids. Laugh like honey spilling over. She said she loved tomatoes but never learned how to grow them. I offered to teach her. Every Sunday morning, we tended the plants. Every Sunday afternoon, we drank lemonade on the porch. She never once asked why my family didn't visit. She just showed up. And that, more than blood, more than history, was what I learned to trust. In late August, I got a card in the mail. No return address, just my name written in a rushed hand. Inside, the simple message: "Sorry, we forgot. Things have been crazy. Hope you're well." No signature. I didn't have to guess. It was from them. My daughter. Maybe my son. Maybe both. I sat on the porch with the card in my lap. No anger. No tightness in my chest. Just a small, strange smile. They hadn't remembered. They had been reminded. Maybe by a photo. Maybe by the empty seat at a barbecue. But not from the kind of remembering that comes with real love. I didn't reply. Not out of spite, but because closure isn't something you get from others. It's something you give yourself. Instead, I spent that evening writing a list. A new one. Dance once, without caring who's watching. Laugh so hard it hurts. I pinned the list to the fridge. Every morning, I read it aloud. Like a prayer, like a map. Carol saw the list one afternoon. She pointed to the last one. "Laugh so hard it hurts, huh? Stick with me, Walt. I'm good at that." And she was. She made me laugh at her jokes about getting old, at the way we both hated modern music, at the time we tried to make sourdough and ended up with what looked like a science project. It wasn't romance. It was something gentler, a different kind of love. The kind you don't have to earn or chase. The kind that shows up without being asked. I realized I wasn't missing family. I was missing connection. And connection, real connection, doesn't require shared blood, only shared time. Fall crept in slowly. The mornings turned crisp. Tomatoes withered, leaves curled brown at the edges, and my phone stayed silent. Thanksgiving came. No invitation, no text, not even one of those lazy forwarded memes. I cooked a small meal for myself. Turkey breast, sweet potatoes, 1 slice of pie. No fancy plates, no extra chairs, just 1 fork, 1 glass. And you know what? It tasted better than any meal I'd had surrounded by people who didn't really see me. Carol dropped by later that evening. She carried a paper bag that smelled of cinnamon and butter. "Didn't want you stuck with dry leftovers," she said, winking. Inside were 2 huge cinnamon rolls. We sat on the porch, eating straight from the bag, laughing when the icing melted onto our fingers. No staged photos, no fake smiles, just 2 people who didn't owe each other anything except the joy of being present. I realized something then. Family isn't built by blood. It's built by showing up, by listening, by laughing when life drops icing on your shirt. December rolled around. Christmas lights blinked from every window. Carol invited me to help her decorate her tree. I almost said no. Old habits whispered, "It's not your place. You're just a guest." But I went. Her tree was chaos. Homemade ornaments, broken candy canes, lights that blinked out of rhythm. It was beautiful. She handed me a small box. Inside was a plain silver ornament. No engraving, no glitter. Just a single word scratched into the surface. Found. I hung it right in the middle of the tree. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like something missing from someone else's celebration. I felt like something whole. On Christmas morning, I woke up to sunlight spilling across my floor. No alarms, no rush, no heavy expectations. Carol called around 9 a.m. "You up, or are you sleeping like a teenager?" I laughed. "I'm up, coffee's on." She showed up 15 minutes later, holding a box wrapped in newspaper comics. Inside, a gardening apron embroidered with my name. "Because legends deserve uniforms," she said. I pretended not to tear up. Around noon, Carol's grandkids stopped by. Sticky fingers, high voices, tracks of snow across my porch. One of them, the youngest, maybe 5, handed me a lopsided gingerbread man. "This one's for you. It's old like you." We both laughed so hard I had to sit down. No fancy gifts, no staged family photo, no undercurrent of obligation. Just real moments, messy and golden. Later that night, sitting by the fire, I thought about all the birthdays I had spent measuring love by how loudly it was shouted. And here, in the quiet hum of laughter and burnt cookies, I realized love doesn't have to be loud to be true. It just has to show up. A few days after New Year's, I received a text from my daughter. "Hope you had a good holiday. Sorry we didn't call. Things have been crazy." No question, no invitation. Just a limp branch tossed across a chasm they didn't even realize they dug. I didn't reply. Not from anger, from understanding. Some people only remember you when they need a reflection of themselves. And I had finally stopped being a mirror for people who refused to see me. Instead, I wrote down a new rule on a sticky note and pinned it above my door. "You are not hard to love. You were just loving in the wrong direction." Spring came faster than usual. Or maybe I just noticed it more. The first green shoots cracked through the frozen dirt. Tiny, stubborn promises that life, real life, always finds a way. Carol and I started a community garden on the empty lot near the park. At first, only a few curious neighbors showed up. A retired nurse, a young couple with a toddler, an old veteran who never smiled, but always watered the tomatoes like they were his grandchildren. No grand opening, no ribbon cutting, just hands in dirt, boots in mud, stories swapped between shovelfuls of soil. We planted more than vegetables. We planted forgiveness, patience, second chances, and every Saturday morning I showed up. Not for recognition, not for applause, just for the simple, steady work of belonging. One afternoon, Carol and I sat on a bench overlooking the garden. She passed me a lemonade, smirked, and said, "You're happier now, you know." I shrugged. Maybe I just stopped measuring happiness by how many people are around. She nodded. Or maybe you stopped watering dead plants. I laughed so hard I almost spilled my drink. In May, we hosted a small picnic for the garden volunteers. No RSVPs, no assigned seats. Just tables, homemade food, and a sky so blue it looked painted. Children ran between the rows of squash and beans. The veterans smiled for the first time. Carol wore a ridiculous hat with a giant sunflower on it. And me? I sat there, sipping iced tea, feeling something settle in my chest. Not regret, not sadness, peace. Somewhere, my old family celebrated birthdays, posted filtered photos, maybe even remembered, too late, the father and brother who had quietly stepped off their stage. And that was fine, because I had found a different kind of family, built from dirt, laughter, and the brave act of showing up. And for the first time in my life, I knew I hadn't lost anything. I had simply made space for everything I truly deserved. Summer faded into gold. The tomatoes burst red again. Children outgrew their shoes between harvests. Carol's sunflower hat became a running joke, and I just kept planting. One evening, after a long day tending the garden, I sat alone on my porch. The sun melted behind the hills. No music, no phones buzzing, no forced conversations. Just the cool breath of evening air and the quiet thrum of a life I had built by hand. I thought about birthdays, how for so long I had waited for others to crown me worthy once a year. A call, a cake, a seat at someone else's table. Now, I didn't wait. I baked my own cake, wrote my own cards, lit my own candles, not to beg for love, but to celebrate the one person who had always been there through it all. Myself. This year, for my birthday, Carol and I held a potluck at the garden. No gifts, no expectations, just food, flowers, and laughter that rolled across the fields like warm wind. Someone asked if I missed the way things used to be. I smiled. No, I finally realized I was never asking for too much. I was just asking the wrong people. As twilight fell, the children handed me a card. Inside they had drawn pictures, tomatoes, carrots, a man with a big smile and muddy boots. Above it, written in shaky letters, "Happy birthday, Mr. Walt. You grow everything better, even people." I sat back, held the card close to my chest, and watched the last light disappear behind the garden rows. Not alone, not forgotten, just found.